Ruslan, would it be cool if you did a show about the things men can do for their mental health and leveling up? What can men do for their mental health and leveling up? This is a great question. But the things I'm going to go over may shock you. And I think sometimes a question like this, somebody said mental health can be an idol. We can get caught up into health and wellness. Listen. Linda, listen to me. Before you can make something an idol, you first got to make it a priority. Before you start making your idol an idol out of your body because you're vain, because you're so shredded, you first got to get in the gym. Before you wander from the faith because you got too much money and the money becomes your identity, you first got to make a little bit of money. You first got to pay off your debt. I think we pose these questions, and it's not just men, it's women too. I talked about this yesterday. It's like the woman that's like, I don't know if I want to start going to the gym because I might get bulky. I might work out and I might get too bulky. Trust me, sweetheart, you're not going to get bulky. Trust me. There's a chasm of a difference. There's a chasm of a difference between you getting in shape and getting a little firm, right? And like you getting bulky and looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger. So this idea of like mental health becoming an idol, you first got to make it a priority before it becomes an idol. You first got to like get some systems and some resources under your belt before it becomes an idol. All right? So let's talk about it. Mental health. All right. Number one, the surest path to mental health is usually going to be preventative maintenance. The surest path to you being stable mentally and emotionally is going to be you avoiding stupid things and stupid people and harmful activities that are going to destroy your mental health. Now, some of you guys don't have a framework for this because all you've been inundated with and the environment you've been in has been nothing but harmful and toxic because of maybe the people you're around, the family you've been raised into, your zip code. I don't know. Okay. But the first thing is preventing access to stimuli that is harmful to you. All right. You got to first pull out stuff that's harmful for you. That's the preventative aspect. Most people don't even understand how weak and like exhausting so many people are. All right. So first you got to just acknowledge that, like, man, there's probably some things. Now, again, most of us didn't grow up in stable homes. Most of us didn't grow up in stable families. Most of us didn't grow up with loving parents that knew how to pull and push us, right? They gave us boundaries, but still gave us grace. And so a lot of us are already starting from a deficit, if we're going to be honest, right? We're already starting from a deficit. Two, I think we ignore the very real practical side of physical activity. And I don't mean you becoming a meathead and getting shredded, though I think there's a lot of strength. There's a lot of power in strength. I mean specifically movement. We sit more than any other generation that's ever came before us. The Priest, Provider, Protector line is here. Priest. 1 Peter 2:9 says that we are a royal priesthood. Provider. In the parable of the talents, Jesus shows us how we are to use our time, talent, and treasure, and then goes right into caring for the least of these. Protector. To be bold and never be docile in a world that consistently mocks and disrespects Jesus. The Priest, Provider, Protector collection is only available until tonight at midnight Pacific Standard Time. So be sure to go to blessgod.shop to get yours now before it's gone forever. We sit a lot. You sit in a car to drive to work. You get out, you briefly walk, then you sit down somewhere and you work. And then you maybe get up for a break every hour or so. If you're lucky, then you go, you get some food and you sit down to eat your food. Then you get back up and you drive back to you sit back down. And just sitting alone you're not supposed to sit as much as we sit. So a lot of us just aren't moving. We're just not moving enough. So movement can be a huge way to combat mental health. Just getting your dopamine levels right, getting things reset, going outside, going on walks, getting fresh air, getting vitamin D. All of those things are extremely helpful. And this is why children, if you watch children play, They go outside and they play. At least my children go outside. They move around. Little kids, especially little boys, love to wrestle and fight with their dads. right? They play. They like to play. As you become an adult, you have to prioritize play. You have to prioritize movement. You have to prioritize the very things that was natural. You got to start prioritizing those things, right? You have to start prioritizing those things. And if you don't know where to start, just start by going on a walk. Just start by going on a walk. Go outside and go on a walk. Get the fresh air, get some vitamin D, get some fresh air, get some vitamin D. So there's that aspect, right? There's that aspect. Movement, walking, strength training, right? Resistance training. All those things are huge. And then we have to get into your sleep. Most of us have really, really jacked up sleep. Most of us have really, 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 really jacked up sleep, right? You have to discover something called this circadian rhythm. A circadian rhythm, meaning that our bodies are naturally more in sync with just the sun rising and the sun going down. And if you are up super late and then you're sleeping in when the sun is up, you're setting your body out of rhythm. There's a natural circadian rhythm, right? And your body naturally gets adrenaline released in it as the sun is rising. Right? As the sun is rising, your body's getting adrenaline released to it. And so a lot of what we would call mental health issues, mental health struggles, is you're probably not getting enough sunlight, you're not getting enough movement, you're not going outside, and your sleep is trash. And what happens is you deplete your willpower, and your willpower is depleted throughout the day. And so by the time you're up late, you then make bad decisions. Because your willpower is depleted, right? Your willpower is depleted. And so you're like, well, again, how do I avoid that? Well, one of the best things you can do is just make a decision to get up earlier, have 1 or 2 days of suffering, and let your body reset. I guarantee you, if those of you guys are like, I am a night owl, me too. I guarantee you, if you guys reset your body and just said, okay, you know what? I'm going to try waking up at 6 a.m. for the next week. And I'm going to get up and I'm going to get somewhere. I'm going to get to a gym. I'm going to get to a park. I'm going to go somewhere and do something, right? Or 5:30, whatever it is. If you did that for one day, you'd be so tired at the end of the day that you'd go to bed earlier. You go to bed earlier, you're going to get better sleep. You're going to get better REM sleep. You're going to wake up earlier and not feel as terrible. You can sleep through the night. So you reset your body, reset your sleeping. I'm the quintessential night owl, right? And I had to reshape my shape. But like the latest I'm asleep now is like 11, and I'm usually up by 7 at the latest, right? And sometimes, but that might take you a day or two to just reset everything, right? That might take you a day or two to just reset everything. So I would say sleep is huge for mental health, right? Sleep is huge for mental health because if you could change your sleep, you're not going to be up as late. You're not going to have as much idle time. You're not going to start doing self-destructive things like looking at things you shouldn't be looking at. What if you work at night? Start praying for different opportunity. I got family members that work at night, and let me tell you, it's brutal on them. It is brutal on them, and I think that the research shows this. Working at night is hard. It is hard because your schedule is totally opposite. I'm not talking about working like, oh, I work until 10. I'm talking like you go in at 10 and you work when everyone is sleeping, and then you are going to sleep when everyone's working. Brutal on your body. Brutal. And I understand sometimes you got to do that for a season, but I would really start thinking about the next season, right? Work to eat, sow to reap. Start sowing to reap for the next season. So those are just some things I just laid out very, very simply that I think are going to physically start adjusting things. Now, as you adjust your sleep, you're going to have more time to get up, go to the gym. That's a positive habit. Read your Bible, pray. Hopefully you got yourself the Bless God prayer journal. Write in your prayer journal. Appreciate you, David, for reminding me. Get in a local church. Get some friends around you. Get some good friends around you. Get some friends around you that believe the best for you. And so my therapist, how he broke it down is like this. My therapist broke it down like this. He said there's 2 buckets in terms of mental health. 2 buckets. Bucket number 1 is the preventative maintenance side. This is going to be your sleep. This is going to be you moving, you working out, the type of people you're around, the type of voices you're allowing in, right? It's going to be the preventative side. and moderating that. Your nutrition, probably to some degree. Are you consuming high amounts of starchy, high sugary processed foods? That could affect you. And then he said the other side, which is really hard for me, if I'm going to be honest with you, is the fun bucket, is doing things that are fun to you. And that nowadays can feel like a luxury. The fun bucket can feel like a luxury, right? Because if you're in a spot where you're in a deficit, you may not have the opportunity to have a bunch of fun. And our society, unfortunately, prioritizes fun over mood relegation and preventative maintenance, right? And so it's like fun also plays a part into it. Having fun with your kids, having fun with your family, having fun with your friends, having outlets, right? This is why church community is so important. This is why friends are so important. This is why going outside is so important, right? And so having hobbies, yes, absolutely, which I am not great at, right? Like I am not great at having hobbies. I used to play basketball a lot. Whenever I have a hobby, it just becomes very I become very obsessive about it, you know? But having hobbies, having things you're excited about, that you like to do. And so those are a few things in terms of mental health. And then I would say like having outlets to hold you accountable. Having outlets to keep you accountable. This is what I mean. A lot of us, everything I just described, drop a 1 in the chat if you kind of knew what I just described. Like drop a 1 in the chat if you've heard of these things before. Drop a 1 in the chat if you've heard of these things before. Yeah, a lot of you guys have heard of these things. We all kind of know these things, right? We all know these things. Here is the kicker. Here's the punchline. We know the right things to do. We know the right things to do. Most of us know like, oh, I probably shouldn't be up until 2 in the morning. Oh, I probably should go outside. Oh, I probably should go to the gym. Oh, I probably shouldn't eat like crap. Oh, right? We know. Yeah, you guys, I probably should read my Bible more. The issue is we don't have self-accountability. You don't have self-accountability. You're not accountable to yourself. You lie to yourself all the time. I lie to myself all the time, right? You lie to yourself. You say you're going to do something and you don't do it. That's a dangerous place to be in. You say, I'm going to go do that and I'll not do it. And so what you really need, because you know the right things to do, what you really need is accountability. You really need to be accountable to yourself, first and foremost. But until you can be accountable to yourself, you need to find someone else to be accountable to. You need to find somebody else to be accountable to. For me, when it comes to things like my career, a lot of times my wife keeps me accountable to the goals I set out and the things I said I was going to do. My wife keeps me accountable. Hey, babe, I don't want to keep doing music if a year from now I'm still in the same position. Now I'm accountable to someone because she, you know, this is at the end of 2010. I would have expected her to tell me, you need to stop making music. It's taking up too much time. So what I do, I revved up with music and music became my full-time career. And so you need someone to keep accountable. This is why church accountability is so helpful. This is why church accountability is so helpful. 2, you need a way to remember the things that you know you should be doing. You need a way to remember the things you should be doing. And a lot of times, if you look at the scriptures, you see the children of Israel and God like consistently telling them, I am the God of Abraham. I am the God who took you out of Israel. He has to constantly remind them who he is because we forget. We forget. We are so quick to forget. And again, not to toot my own horn, this is why we put together the prayer journal. Why? Because 1, when you write something down, it gets stored in a different part of your brain. You don't have to buy one of these if you don't want to. Go download the PDF, blessgodpdf.shop. You write something physically down, it goes into a different part of your brain. You document and keep record of the things you're praying for. And by the way, the prompts in here remind you that the freaking universe doesn't revolve around you. Hello. Did you know that? The universe don't revolve around you. So what do? We start every day with a praise report and something we're grateful for. Take the attention off yourself. What is something you are grateful for that God's doing in your life? What is something you're praising God for? It's not about you. Your prayers shouldn't just be about you. And then you know what the next prompt is? My prayers for other people. Hey, before you start asking God to give you this and give you that and do this and do that, how about you pray for some other people? And then you go into personal prayers for yourself. And then you go into a memory verse. And then there's a productivity hack that just says, I will get this done today. And then there's some additional notes for my time in the Word. Download the PDF if you can't afford it. You should buy one because I think I like physical stuff, right? And one like this doesn't exist. So you need to you need to remember these things. You need to remember these things. You need to remember these things. Writing them down is a great way to recall them. And then what happens is when you start your day off with gratitude, that's amazing because now you're actually setting the tone for your day. Constantly thinking about the things you do have instead of thinking about the things you don't have. Because if you're just on Instagram, that's all you're going to be thinking about is the things you don't have. Start thinking about the things you do have. You do have what? You got a roof over your head. You got shelter. You got food in your stomach. May not be the food you want, but you got some food. You got clothes on your back. You got running water. Hello. You start thinking about the things you do have, you naturally become a more grateful person. You become a more grateful person. More people want to do more things with people that are grateful. Nobody want to be around a Debbie Downer all the time who's always talking about what they don't have. All of these different things compound, but ultimately what you need is accountability. Where are you going to find accountability? Ideally, the best accountability to have is self-accountability. You got to be accountable to yourself. If you're not accountable to yourself, you need to get into some sort of partner, group, program, accountability, treatment, some church, something. You need to do something. You need to do something. Because doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, is insanity. Learning is being exposed to the same thing, and having a different response to it. So you guys have been exposed to this information before. I have a feeling this isn't the first time you heard this about mental health. But now, what are you going to do with this information? Are you actually going to go find a local church and a program, a recovery program of some sort if you're struggling with addiction? Are you actually going to go seek out a church in your area? Are you actually going to seek out a small group at your church? Maybe you're at a church, but you don't want to join a small group because you think you're too cool for school, because you don't really need no people, and Christians are weird, and I don't understand why I got to be in a small group. We're going to keep talking about being in a small group. I don't want to be in a small group. I'm a Lone Ranger Christian. I'm like Rambo in the jungle with my Bible, taking on the whole world, right? Are you actually going to do something different with this information? That would be my question to you. And that becomes the pathway. By the way, this is why people pay for coaching. This is why people pay for therapy. This is why people pay for these things. Not because we don't know the information. A lot of times my therapist would say things to me. I'd be like, oh, fun. Huh. Yeah, I don't really have much fun. Maybe I should work on that, right? It's the advice he gives me. Oh, okay, got it. Okay. I'm paying for the accountability. I'm paying for someone to help me make sense of my jumbled thoughts and give me something to be accountable to. And then he's going to ask me. Hey, how'd you do on that thing? Right? And I got friends like this, great friends in my real life. So anyway, hopefully this was helpful to you guys. Hopefully this is something you're thinking about. And hopefully you do something with this information and implement it, because I don't want anyone who's a part of this community to struggle with these things. I don't want anyone who's a part of this community to feel like they're in a feedback loop, to feel like they're stuck, to feel like this is it. This is their lot in life, and they just have to grin and bear it. Because I think God just wants more for us. Not in a, God wants you to be rich and famous. That's not what I'm saying. God wants you to be whole and healthy. Not to say that there isn't tragedy and there isn't sickness because of the fall. All of that is true. But generally speaking, God wants you to be a stable, functioning human so that you can be a part of his work on this side of eternity. The priest, provider, protector line is here. Priest. 1 Peter 2:9 says that we are a royal priesthood. Provider. In the parable of the talents, Jesus shows us how we are to use our time, talent, and treasure, and then goes right into caring for the least of these. Protector. To be bold and never be docile in a world that consistently mocks and disrespects Jesus. The priest, provider, protector collection is only available until tonight at midnight Pacific Standard Time. So be sure to go to blessgod.shop to get yours now before it's gone.